and welcome to the News Desk with me, Chris Stafford, alongside Nancy Gillen. This is Season 4, Episode 11. And Nancy, I think before we started recording, I told you that I'm actually now in a polo shirt and cycling in shorts for the first time this year. It is warm over here in Middleburg, Virginia, 72 degrees. But you do have daylight, right? Well, this is the first time we've recorded in daylight in London.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's slightly earlier than we normally record, I think. So I think that's partially why, but it's, nearing 6 p.m. and it's still light outside and the clocks are going forward in like a week and a half. So that means it's going to be this light at around 7 p.m. pretty soon. So that's, someone that likes a lot of light, a lot of daylight in their day. That's great for me. And
we should mention that we changed our clocks here last week. So we have 2 weeks actually where we're 4 hours different, 4 hour time difference. And so it's 6 o'clock with you, where we normally record at 7 o'clock your time. But yeah, spring is on the way. Daffodils and crocuses are out. So yeah, spring is on the way. The hedgerows are budding, and the magnolia bloom, which is beautiful here, is just starting to form. So I think in a few days, with all the sunshine, it should be out. So doesn't it make you feel good? Because you run, so going out when it's lighter in the evenings and the spring blooming. Spring is blooming in the hedgerows, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think this is one of my favourite times of the year because, coming out of winter, like you said, I think especially with stuff like running as well, it's nicer to run when it's light and as well, like I don't run, I've got like a really nice, it's like a disused railway track which goes all the way to Highgate Woods, which I normally run along, but I can't do that in winter because it's too dark. So it's just nice to be able to soon, hopefully, be able to go out in the evenings and run along that as well, because it's a very pleasant run. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. You are in training, as I am, Nancy, and I want to let everybody know what we're doing here, because you're aware of the bike ride that I'm training for now. It's actually starting to get serious, because I've made the commitment to ride 375 miles of the Potomac Heritage Trail, and that starts at Point Lookout State Park in Maryland, which is on the east coast, on the Atlantic coast, the eastern shore, and it goes northwest through D.C., where we join the C&O Canal and ride along the canal all the way to Cumberland Falls in Maryland, and then we join the Allegheny Trail, the Allegheny Pass, what is it, GAP, and that goes up to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so I'm doing it with my good friend Marcy Cornegay. You remember Marcy, Nancy. She used to be with We Coach, and she's been a guest and a co-host on our shows here. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think I met her at the Christmas Zoom event that we once did. And she is a serious adventurer, shall we say. She's a woman who has hiked the Appalachian Trail alone, and she is getting ready. In May, she leaves on the Pacific Crest Trail, which takes you from the desert in California on the Mexican border all the way north to the Canadian border at Washington State, which is going to take her from May till October. So she's going to do that on her own too. So this is a woman that is a really good hiking and biking buddy, Nancy. So she and I are going to do this, and not just do it for ourselves, which will be enormously satisfying. We decided to choose a charity because one of the things that's on all our minds right now, of course, is what's happening in Ukraine with the Russian invasion, and not least of all the effect that it's having on the refugees, on the people of Ukraine and the refugees. And there's an organization called World Central Kitchen, which is actually based here in Washington, D.C., but it was started by a man called Carlos Andreas, a Spanish guy, and his wife, and they've created these kitchens, these mobile kitchens, if you will. So whenever there's a disaster like in Haiti, like the Guatemalan volcano, and now with the Ukrainian refugees, he sets up these kitchens to provide hot meals to thousands and thousands of refugees. We know now there's getting close to 3,000 refugees, Nancy. So it's doing a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful service to these people who are in desperate need, of course, of a hot meal. So that's the charity that we chose, and we've set up a page on justgiving.com. I'll put a link in the show notes, so if any of you would like to support that ride, and importantly, support the people of Ukraine who desperately need our help right now. So that's our mission, and that's something that I've been starting to train for. Now I can get outside with this nice weather, Nancy, so I have to build up the mileage.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds, like a very exciting challenge and also a worthy cause. And I I was saying it's always good kind of from the training aspect of it to have something in the diary to work towards and kind of hold yourself accountable for. So, it sounds really exciting.
Yeah. As you know yourself, having now become a marathon runner and completed the London Marathon, it really is fun to have a goal. Well, there's been lots of goals that have been reached in the Paralympic Games. We want to start with the Paralympics because, as we said last week, Nancy, I think mainly because of the overriding news that's absorbing us right now, and it really is the greater picture, if you will, and the bigger news story. Things like the Paralympic Games kind of overshadowed, rather, didn't they? And I know you felt it because you don't have as much coverage anyway, and it was harder to follow the Paralympic Games this year. Yeah,
definitely. I think, like you said, I mean, it is shown on free-to-air TV here, but I think kind of, a lot of the headlines and media attention was definitely on what was happening in Ukraine. So, I kind of tried, obviously stayed on top of it and kind of knew what was happening, but I don't think, compared to the Olympics anyway, I don't think there was anywhere near as much attention, which was obviously a massive shame. And but not great for the athletes competing either.
No, certainly not. And I kind of feel for them. I mean, we talked about this last week, but there's one woman that we're going to lead with today because we really can't get past this story without giving her the credit that she needs. And that's Oksana Masters. She actually won 7 medals in Beijing, Nancy, and that made it 15 Paralympic medals. She is a tour de force, this woman.
Yeah, quite incredible. I think, and we've spoken previously about her as well, haven't we? When
yes,
I think it was last week or the week before when she was saying that she was finding it difficult to compete at the Paralympics amid what was happening in Ukraine. But obviously, she's kind of got that, mental toughness to, even though she's got that kind of in the back of her mind, to get past that. And when the amount of medals that she has, 15 medals in total, but her 5th medal at Beijing 2022, 5 in total. That is quite incredible.
I think it's 7 in total, wasn't it?
Was it 7? Sorry, 7.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's an extraordinary record, and of course, she competes in the Summer Olympics too. So she's one of those rare athletes that can compete in both summer and winter Paralympics. But her story, Nancy, you'll be aware of her story. The reason why she's been in such turmoil emotionally because of Ukraine. She is from Ukraine. She is Ukrainian. She was born with numerous birth defects, and that included 6 toes on each foot, 1 kidney, and a lack of weight-bearing bones in her legs, and also she had webbed fingers. And this was all caused by the radiation from the, I'm sure you remember this, Nancy, or remember hearing about this, the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster. She was abandoned by her parents as an infant, and she spent the first 7 years of her life fighting to stay alive in several Ukrainian orphanages, and she endured physical, sexual, and mental abuse along with starvation. But it was an American university professor who adopted her back in 1996 and nursed her back to health, and she had her both legs amputated in the process. So she had to endure so much that as a girl and as a young woman, before she discovered sport and first of all rowing, and it changed her life. And it's an incredible story what now she's achieved in her short life. I think she's 31 now.
Yeah, I mean, that whole story is incredible. I think just, even to come back from such a, horrific start to life and then go and kind of succeed at the highest stage is unbelievable. And I think you're saying, that she's still probably got more Paralympics in her as well. I imagine that she can definitely probably stay and, continue to add to her medal tally as well.
Yes, I imagine she would, given the sports that she does. And I'm not sure she's a woman that will retire too early or not until she's fully exhausted her sporting career and ambitions. So we wish her well, but a huge congratulations, Oksana. That was absolutely extraordinary achievement into the record books there. Now we're going to move on to skiing, Nancy, because this week is the Skiing World Cup finals. They've been held in France, in Courchevel and Maribel, and today was the downhill. Now, I know you know this because I'm sure this young lady, young woman, is going to be very pleased with the results of the downhill, so that she actually won the downhill after what happened at the Beijing Olympic Games. And that's, of course, America's Michaela Schifrin. And it's something for her to win a downhill. She's a technical skier, but she certainly turned it on to finish ahead of the game today. She won there, and that, of course, with the finals, that meant that Sofia Goggia took the Crystal Globe. Italy's Sofia Goggia, you remember, she was injured before the Winter Olympic Games too, and she made a comeback which was extraordinary in the time that she had. Well, she won the Crystal Globe ahead of Switzerland's Corinne Suter, of course, who's the Olympic downhill champion. So a very, very exciting finish to the season in the downhill race. Today, I should say, Michaela beat the Austrian Christine Scheer, and then Switzerland's Joanna Halen, who's also been on the podium for the first time this season. A couple of podiums for her this season. And Lara Gutbarami, I always shine a light for, she finished fifth in the downhill today. So tomorrow is going to be the Super G. It's the Women's Super G tomorrow, Thursday. And then the mixed team parallel, I think that's Friday, because then at the weekend it's the slalom and the giant slalom. So all the finals happening in Courchevel and Maribel. Really exciting finale to this season's World Cup skiing, Nancy. So that's all the skiing I'm going to be talking about for a while.
Oh, that is a shame. But yeah, I thought at least there's still a lot of big sporting events happening. But yeah, I do know how much you like your skiing. So
yeah. All right. Well, we're going to move on to another story that's making the headlines now, not least of all because what's happening in Ukraine and in Russia. And that's the story of the WNBA star, Brittany Griner. Now, I know you've been following this as well, Nancy. It's a very troubling story right now. She was arrested in Moscow Airport when she re-entered. She plays for a Russian team, and she was found to have, according to the Russian authorities, that a sniffer dog found drugs on her. And you talked about this last week, Nancy, didn't you? This story, and I think we really need to keep it alive in some way. Just to say that we don't really have much of an update. Only I know that her agent and her lawyer have been in contact with her, but her whereabouts have been kept secret still, Nancy. But this is a player that's, you wonder if it was another, or even a male player, whether it would be much more in the news than it is.
Yeah, and I think, the BBC, there's a really in-depth article on the BBC about it, which when I read it was actually, again, it's all quite shrouded in, we don't know all the details and things, but there were quite a few things that I kind of learned for the first time. Like, I hadn't realised that she was actually travelling into Russia as opposed to going home. And there was the good point made within the article that the main reason that the American players or players in the WNBA go over to Russia to play in the off season is because they obviously don't earn enough money to keep them going throughout the year. So if they were paid more, they wouldn't necessarily have to do that. And she, if Griner was going into Russia to play, obviously at a very precarious time, probably a lot of players would be wary of that, but it's maybe something that she kind of felt she had to do because for financial reasons. So yeah, it's kind of a really interesting, the story's already been out for quite a while, but I think it's well worth reading the BBC News articles because there were a few details there that I hadn't known before, and it still kind of just emphasizes the fact that there's still a lot that we don't know, like where she is at the moment and, you know, kind of her route out of this situation. So, yeah, I think we've said before, just have to keep our fingers crossed that she's not kind of swept up into the kind of a wider situation with everything that's happening with Russia, and hopefully she can get home safely.
Yeah, and just a quote from that article on the BBC, they said few have accomplished what she's done, winning a college championship, WNBA and EuroLeague titles, and an Olympic gold medal. And famously, she has an ability to dunk, which is, I'm told, unmatched. And she is a star center for the Phoenix Mercury. And she's considered one of the most dominant players in history and widely considered the best offensive player in the league. So she really is a star under any universe. So we wish her well, and we'll keep you posted here, because if we can talk to anybody about this and keep it in the spotlight, we will, so that she's not forgotten, because what she's going through is extremely difficult, obviously, given the current political climate between the US and Russia, and also for her family, her wife and her family back home, being really kept in the dark on what's going on over there. So we wish her well, and we'll keep you posted here. And as Nancy says, you know, we'll have the story is definitely worth reading, and we'll post it on the website along with all the other links to the stories that we cover here at wisports.com. Well, we're going to move along to cricket now in the Southern Hemisphere. Nancy, England didn't do much better since we spoke last week about them.
No, unfortunately not. England, I think the last time we spoke, they'd lost 2 matches to the West Indies and Australia. And then they went on to lose against South Africa as well. Fortunately, today they beat India, but I think it's still looking quite... they are the defending champions, and currently they're not really living up to their title defence. I think if you look at overall, it is quite... Only really Australia have won. Australia and South Africa have won all their matches. And then the rest of the teams have been pretty kind of unpredictable. So I think last time we talked about the West Indies looking good, and then they kind of lost both their matches after. India have won 2, lost 2, same as New Zealand as well. The only team that have lost every single match is Pakistan. So it all kind of seems like it's quite up in the air. But I think ultimately England are going to be quite disappointed with how they've performed at the tournament so far, because, like I said, defending champions, and they've only managed to win 1 match out of 4. So it's not looking the best at the moment.
No, it isn't. I mean, they still can rake it back a little bit, but they just don't have the form, it seems, that they need. And your confidence would be hit as well when you lose once and twice, and you just wonder how it's going to play out, because the other teams are just going to seize the moment, aren't they? It always works that way. It's psychological. Yeah,
and I think there's kind of say for the defeat to the West Indies, it was like the first time the West Indies had never beat England at a World Cup, and like you said, I think then that probably other teams are thinking, we could probably beat England as well. So I think it is looking like Australia are definitely favourites to win. I'm not sure if anyone's going to be able to overcome Australia, but we'll have to just find out in the next couple of weeks.
Stay tuned right here on the Wisp News Desk. All right, we're going to switch back over to England now for the Cheltenham National Hunt Festival. Nancy, I've told you before, this is my very favourite, being a horse person, this is my very favourite racing fixture. It's the National Hunt fixture. It runs every March in Cheltenham, Gloucestershire, and it is just the best time of year, of course, in Gloucestershire, and it's a big derby between England and Ireland. There's a rivalry that friendly / unfriendly at times, but we're going to start this with this wonderful story coming out of the meeting started yesterday, Tuesday, and runs all through the week. And we've got some great news about Rachel Blackmore, who I think she was my Sportswoman of the Year last year because of what she achieved at the Cheltenham Festival last year and also at the Grand National, right? You remember? Well, she took a second champion hurdle title, didn't she? Just yesterday.
Yeah, she did. So, yeah, she's kind of continued from where she left off last year. Riding the same horse again as well, Honeysuckle, who I think has won 15 races in a row now, which I'm not the biggest horse racing expert, but obviously I know that's very impressive. Very impressive. Blackmore, and for I think a second consecutive champion hurdle win as well is also very impressive. So she's I think obviously the difference this year is that last year it was Cheltenham was held behind closed doors because of COVID, but I think there was around 70,000 people this year to cheer her on, which must have been pretty amazing. And yeah, still wait to be seen whether she again finishes the festival as the best rider as she did last year, because like you said, there's still 2 days to go of racing. So but yeah, it's great to see her kind of back in the news and achieving big things again.
Yeah, good for her. She's one heck of a jockey. Well done, Rachel. Keep it going all week. All right, we're going to move on to football now because we can't have a show without football when Nancy Gillen's on the programme. And we have some news from the FA about increasing prize fund. This is good news.
Yeah, so this is good news. So the FA have announced that the prize fund for the Women's FA Cup is going to be increased by £3 million next year. So I think it's actually per year and it starts from next year. So the increase in money will be £3 million next year, which is, really, really good news. I think especially the disparity for the prize fund was just ridiculously low. Like, so that £3 million is nearly 10 times what the prize fund was previously. And then when compared to the men's tournament as well, there was, a massive, massive disparity. So I think this kind of move by the FA, it's not being kind of without the efforts of a lot of women's football fans campaigning and making a lot of noise about the fact that women's football teams hardly get any money for playing or winning in the FA Cup. I think there were quite a lot of stories about teams in the earlier stages who would actually lose money for playing in the FA Cup because of fixtures. They'd have to get the coach to a fixture and maybe stay in a hotel overnight and things like that. So this is a really, really good move. They're yet to announce how the money will be allocated, but a disproportionate amount of the new fund will be invested into the early rounds of the competition. So the clubs like further down the pyramids and that kind of grassroots women's football feel the effects of the increase in prize money. So it's really good news. I think obviously there's still a lot of work to be done, and I think a lot of people still want to see the prize money for the men's and the women's FA Cup equal, like balanced out, because ultimately I don't think it's necessarily about revenue for the FA Cup. It's the governing body of football here. There's no reason why both women's and men's teams shouldn't receive the same amount of money, but it really is a massive step forward. So really good news.
Very good news. Well, we're going to step back to cricket now. I meant to run this side by side, but we've got some good news for Sue Redfern. She's set to be the first woman to umpire first-class match in England, Nancy. First for women everywhere. Another really good news story. Sue Redfern, she's been former England international herself, and she's been named to the new professional umpires team, which replaces the first-class panel of umpires. So I think essentially the first-class panel of umpires has been replaced with this new system because the England and Wales Cricket Board wanted to attract and appoint umpires from all backgrounds. Kind of diversify the amount of umpires in cricket. Redfern is, obviously already a very well-established and successful umpire. She was the first female to officiate in an England men's home international. As the fourth umpire for a T20 against Sri Lanka last year. And she's also currently officiating at the Women's World Cup
as well. So lots and lots of experience there. And yeah, like you said, it's always first for women is always great. So yeah, congratulations to her.
Yeah, good news. All right, well, we're going to finish this week with news of a screening that you're going to this evening when we finish recording, and that's about an Amazon Prime video that will premiere No Woman, No Try, a documentary looking at gender, ethnicity and sexual equality in women's rugby, and that premieres on March 25th. And you're going to that tonight, Nancy. That's something for rugby fans, but you'll probably find that it's a story more about women's sports too.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so it's an Amazon Prime video, kind of they're showing it. So yeah, they're holding the screening today. But yeah, I think it's just a documentary on kind of, like you said, gender, ethnicity and sexual equality in women's rugby. And I think there will be players, women's sports advocates, male allies are all going to be in the documentary kind of sharing their opinions and perspectives. And apparently the documentary aims to answer the question, how do you defeat the opposition when they're not on the field, which is quite a deep. Yeah. That's
very good. Yes. Yes.
So yeah, that'll be out. I think it won't be out before the next, so next week I'll be able to talk about it a bit. Before it'd be out, and then yeah, whoever wants to watch it, it'd be out on the 25th of March on Amazon Prime. So yeah, I'm really excited to watching it this evening, and I'm sure it's gonna hopefully shine a light on a lot of the inequalities that happens in women's rugby and make more people aware of what's how the struggles that female rugby players face.
For sure. Yeah, and we'll put a link again with the show notes for this episode on our website at wisports.com. So you can watch the trailer for that documentary. And that is No Woman, No Try. I think it's a great title.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's all very clever. I think it's, I think it's quite eye-catching. So hopefully a lot of people will watch it.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the screening. Where are you going for that?
I think it's called Ham Yard Hotel, and I think it's in Soho. So I think it's quite. I know they had the. I don't know if you do watch this, but there's a Netflix documentary out, the F1 races called Drive to Survive, and I know they had the UK premiere of that in the hotel. So I think it's like a posh hotel with a cinema in it. So yeah, very nice.
Very nice. Yeah. Well, enjoy the evening, Nancy. Enjoy. And, of course, we'll be back with more news next week. But in the meantime, don't forget to follow us on social media at WisSports and post your comments, questions, or suggestions online. We're at wisports.com. Look for the Listen tab at the top menu there. Drop down to the WISP sports desk. It's also on the front page. You can click the link there because it will be right on the middle of the top of the front page there for at least a week. So you can click on that, go through to the stories, and there are a lot more stories that we post there, Nancy, which we don't always get in time for when we record, but they are released every week in a newsletter by Women's Sports Business. I know we've talked about this before, but I know I put the link there even if they send if the newsletter comes in after we've recorded. So it might be a day late, but we put the link there to a whole lot of stories. Nancy, have you looked at that? Because there's a tremendous collection of stories that Lisa gathers from around the world of women's sports and the business of women's sports.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's very useful resource as well, just for keeping on top of everything that's happening.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Nancy, have a good week. I hope it warms up a little bit. Are you running most days?
Yeah, most days, yes. So running, playing football and going to the gym. So very active at the moment.
My goodness, you're showing me up for your fitness now. I wish I could play football with you, but yeah. So practicing every week. Do you have a game coming up?
No, well, the team's pretty new. So we're going to enter some 6-a-side tournaments over the summer, which will be fun. So yeah, then I think obviously when the league, proper leagues start again in September, hopefully enter then. But yeah, I don't know how many matches I actually play, but I like doing the training at the moment. That's fun. So I'll see where it takes me. Yeah, for sure. It's all about enjoying it. And that reminds me, just as we started to record here, the NWSL dropped their fixtures for the year, didn't they, Nancy? They did, yeah. And I know this just from following people that follow the NWSL on Twitter, that's been very hotly anticipated. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of happy NWSL fans this evening or this afternoon over in America anyway.
Yes, they will be very glad to see that. So the fixtures are out. We'll put a link again in our show notes so you can follow that, follow your favourite team. I'll be following the Washington Spirit. And what I'm looking forward to, and I hope I can get to this game, Nancy, is when the San Diego Wave and the LA, the new team in LA, the Angels, City Angel, when they come over to Washington to play. I'll get a chance to watch these brand new teams.
Yeah, I think I'm most excited to see those two new teams as well, and a lot of English influence for both of them because Casey Stoney is the manager for San Diego, and then Angel City. It's like I know Jill Ellis is like half American, but she's also English. And then Eni Aluko as well, I think, is sporting director. So there's a lot of I'm very excited to see how both of those teams do.
There we go. Yeah. All right. Well, more of that, of course, to come as the NWSL season unfolds here, starts next month in April. And that ride that I'm going on, it starts on the 19th of April. The link will be in our show notes. I do hope you can support us riding for Ukraine to help feed those refugees. Nancy, I'll see you back here, same time, same place next week, same time.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you for listening, everybody.